And I'm gonna go live on Instagram. And I am live now.
Okay, and I'll look for your link on Facebook.
Okay. Live now.
Okay.
On one of them, on the Instagram, turn your volume down and I will do the same. So we are live now on Facebook and we are preparing to be live on Instagram on the As One Foundation page, both on Facebook and Instagram. And I am super, super, super excited. Well, let me just stop. See, I'm too excited and tell you who I am. My name is Dr. Tamia Austin. I am the executive director of the As One Foundation, where our mission is to globally empower families delivering life-saving sickle cell education. That's a very simple mission, a short sentence, but I am super thrilled today because we are definitely putting the global in our mission through our conversation today. Just a little bit about the As One Foundation. It was started by a young man who learned that he had sickle cell trait uh, going to college. And unfortunately, he went with his identical twin brother, and there is where his brother lost his life to sickle cell trait exertion. They did not know the adverse health effects associated with sickle cell trait. They were basically educated that it was nothing to worry about, you'll live a normal life, and all things would be well. And of course, with Devon's passing, as we approach 20 years since he's been gone, um, that has not been the case for us. So um, is it SC Talks?
Instagram, yes, SCD Talks.
SCD Talks. I'm trying to get a special guest on here on our Instagram at the same time. But so now we know that you should receive an invite from me. Waiting for SCD Talks. That sickle cell trait does in fact have adverse health effects. It is not asymptomatic. And this is not said to scare anyone. We just want people to have full information. So for 12 years, that the As One Foundation was focused on sickle cell trait awareness. And that is how we, okay, I see you.
I requested.
Okay. That's how we met our guest today. It just says waiting for SCD. Okay, here we are.
Yeah.
Okay, here we are. So the needs to go down on one of them.
Okay.
It won't let me turn my volume all the way off. Okay, can we hear it? Okay, can we hear it? Can we hear it?
Okay, I've taken my volume out completely.
Okay, all right. So that is how we met our guest today, who I am going to allow to say her full name. But I will let you know that this is a part of our theme for November, that we've been talking about how we execute our mission. Last week, we talked research with our board member, Dr. Alexandria Washington. And so this week we are talking building community. And that is an approach that we take because we feel that it is important to give voice to both sickle cell and sickle cell trait. And she is a trait warrior, but she is so many other things. So without further ado, I would like to give the floor to my special guest today. Take it away.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Tomia, for inviting me. I think I'm returning the favor. So, well, my name is Agnes. I'm Agnes Nsofwa. So I am from Melbourne, Australia. I'm a mom. I'm a mom to four beautiful humans. And our youngest was the one who had sickle cell disease. So I've got sickle cell trait. I'm AS. And I didn't know, like, most of the stories that we always hear, I didn't know that I had the sickle cell trait for years, until our child was diagnosed with sickle cell at 14 months, our youngest. Where am I professionally? I'm a registered nurse, I'm a banker, I'm a data analyst, but I started nurse just for me to understand sickle cell disease, which has actually helped me to cope with everything else that came with looking after our daughter for 11 years. So we found out that our daughter had sickle cell disease at about 14 months, as I said. And at the time I was a banker, and then I was just so lost, like, anybody else. So I decided to change careers after a few years so that I can understand my daughter's condition. And after so many years, so many things happening, which I'll go into detail later, moving 3 states and all that, our daughter was finally cured of sickle cell disease last year. She underwent a bone marrow transplant. I founded Australian Sickle Cell Advocacy Group, the only sickle cell disease association in Australia. We started the initiative about now 8 years ago, and formally registered the organization about 2.5 years ago. So since 2.5 years ago, I've pretty much made sickle cell advocacy in Australia and around the world, and that's how I met you to be my number one focus. Yeah. So I think in a nutshell, that's a bit about me.
And I mean, that's just a bit too. That is just a bit. So you said a few things that I find of interest that I definitely want to, dig deeper in. Number one, did you say your daughter was 14?
14 months.
Okay,
14 months
when she was diagnosed with sickle cell or sickle cell trait?
Sickle cell disease.
Okay.
Sickle cell anemia. Yeah.
Okay. And you have since conducted a successful bone marrow transplant, so she is no longer sickle cell. Is her donor, did her donor make her sickle cell trait, or is she rid of all sickle cell?
Well, technically, when you are cured of sickle cell disease using a bone marrow transplant, you are cured as in your bone marrow is able to correct your red blood cells. In terms of the trait, you are still a SS. So she's still SS for the trait. If she gets married, she can still have it. If she gets, depending on who she gets married to, if AS or SS, she'll still have a child with sickle cell disease. So what the bone marrow does is only to correct the bone marrow so that she can produce the correct red blood cells.
Did she have a donor, or did they correct her own?
No. She has a donor. She didn't do gene therapy. She had a donor. So our third child was a donor who was AA. So she donated the bone marrow, and that's how she was cured. So
so AA, just for our audience, AA is the genotype that represents all normal hemoglobin, both copies. I am an AA warrior.
I'm an AS. I'm not wearing anyone, but I'm an AS.
You have to make sure we get your genotype shirt. I've been, playing around with this phrasing because we really want to create connection with everyone. We feel everyone needs to know about sickle cell. And
exactly.
Even if they don't know, they're still walking around with the sickle cell genotype, which means if you don't have sickle cell, you have both normal copies, your genotype is AA. But you can be an ally. You can be a non-affected champion for our causes. And that is what I've been since 2010. I've been an unaffected advocate in my blood, but I'm certainly a sickle cell warrior in my soul. So that's very important, and we really want people to know. I don't know about in Melbourne, but in the United States, the world turns pink. Well, the United States turns pink for the month of October, and everyone's not going to develop breast cancer, but everyone cares, and that's
Yeah,
what.
exactly. And that's our hope as well. Especially for me, I've put in my personal mandate to ensure that everybody knows about sickle cell disease. It's just not in Australia, not in the US. Everybody else. So for September, we tried. I knew it was going to be hard. We tried our theme, and for the whole year, actually from June 19th, our theme was to know your sickle cell status, where we engaged a lot of people in the community, including our local ministers as well, just to encourage people to have, get tested to know your sickle cell status. I knew it was going to be a very big challenge. We continued on in September. We asked people, get tested, tell us, not even one person. So what I've realized is we don't take health very seriously. I've seen so many challenges on social media. I don't know how many challenges I see, photos and them. People tend to focus more on other things. I feel health is not really a priority. And if we just took just one person to tell somebody else and tell somebody else, go and get tested, we can change the world. And knowing that sickle cell status also needs you to, it's not just a matter of knowing your sickle cell status, but what you do with those results is for you to ensure that you are making an informed decision so that we can try not to increase the sickle cell disease numbers. So we are trying as well.
Yeah, and you are more than trying, Agnes. Speaking of building community, speaking of, expanding our global reach. I mean, really reaching beyond the water, reaching beyond our borders. I have engaged with you a few times. It is 7 a.m. your time now, right?
It is 7 a.m.
And it is 3 p.m. on Eastern time, but the time I believe one of the times I engage with you is 6 a.m. my time.
6 a.m. Yeah. I've got people that engage at 5 a.m. I've got somebody who's in Tennessee, they engage 5 a.m. So just to increase, and this is what I've said, that for me, I've taken it upon myself as a personal mandate. I fought my journey. I tell you the things that I went through for my daughter. I fought because I knew from the moment we were told that there's light at the end of the tunnel. So this is what happened. So I've got two stories, and I think I've told you this, Tomia. When I was pregnant with my daughter, being an AS, I was one of the few that just had everything wrong during my pregnancy. I was so sick. I was in ICU, in isolation. I was in hospital for about 6 to 8 weeks. And all I had, knowing now, I just had a sickle cell crisis. I just had pain in my skin, in my joints, my sore throat, my headache, and my HP kept dropping. But the doctors, being in Australia, because sickle cell is still considered a rare disease, they had no idea what it was. They did pick up that I had the sickle cell trait, but it was just a by the way thing. I was tested with almost all the diseases on earth. They thought I had tumors in my body. They had to bring cameras in my body. I remember those uncomfortable tests, things that they are trying to put the camera under my throat. I had everything wrong. And all I had was a sickle cell crisis. They didn't transfuse me. 10 years later, I went to the doctors and asked them that you should have killed me. You would have killed me, sorry. Why didn't you transfuse me? My HP kept dropping. At the lowest, it was 67%. I don't know whether you guys do 67 or 6.7, whatever you do when you're doing the HP. I wasn't walking. I was jaundiced. One day, I always say I'll show the photo. So that happened. And then now my daughter was
sickle cell trait.
Sickle cell trait. That's it. I don't have sickle cell disease, and I made sure that they afterwards we did check. I don't have sickle cell disease. I'm AS. My husband is AS as well. But anyway, through God's own liking, I managed to survive, all on steroids. They ran out of options. They only put me on high doses of steroids. It took me over a year to win them down.
Wow.
Until after she was born, I was perfect. I thought I would have anything. I was fine until she was now diagnosed at 14 months. So 14 months, then the doctors realized that, we might have got it wrong when you are pregnant. We should have asked you to come back. We should have checked your husband. They didn't even test my husband, by the way. We should have done this. We should have done this. So they took it upon themselves to correct the wrongs. They made sure that they tested all the kids. And out of all that, the good news was that our third child was a donor, was a match. Then they told us that, you know what, the good thing about all this is in future, if you want to, we want to do cure your child, we can do a bone marrow transplant. But by then, they had never done any transplants in Australia for sickle cell disease. And this is only 11 years ago. You guys have been doing transplants for years. This is only 11 years ago. So, so that was at the back of our head, that one day we'll see the light at the end of the tunnel. But also what they did was they changed all the policies, and that's a win for me. At that hospital, they changed policies that they test at least mothers that came from at-risk countries and test their husbands as well if they have the sickle cell trait. That's what they miss in our case. So for me, that was a win. Other people did that, but for us, it took our daughter to go through all sorts of complications. By the time she was diagnosed, she didn't have part of her lung was taken out. She has gone through multiple surgeries, and that's what delayed her bone marrow transplant. So we had to move from one state to another for us to find that right doctor who said, yes, despite all these complications that she has, I can still do the transplant. And that only happened in 2000. So we moved to Melbourne to chase that treatment in 2013. And with the change of medicine, because she had very bad lungs, they found a reduced conditioning chemo. She only managed to do the transplant last year. So that's where we are. So I tell myself that, I have fought so hard for the past 11 years, and I'm not going to put my bags down. Some people get surprised that, Agnes, your child is cured. Why are you doing this? I'm like, you don't get it. You don't get it. The 11 years that I went through, and it will be very selfish that I advocated for the past 7 years for my daughter. And I'm saying every person, every child deserves a cure. Every person deserves a cure. And after my daughter is cured, then that's it. That's being very selfish in my mind. I don't know how other people see it. People don't get it. I'm so passionate about this. And I want everyone in the world to know that, everybody has the right to life. Everybody has the right to treatment. Everybody has the right to all resources that other places like in the US compare. This makes me emotional.
Yeah.
But, you have kids in Africa that die below the age of 5. In Asia, in India, children are dying. I've seen horrible stories in America. Yes, it happens. I've seen doctors treating these patients because if they feel they're taking too many drugs and all, they can give them medication. But at the end of the day, if you advocate and advocate hard, that medication will be given to you. In Africa, you can't, because there's no access. There's no medications. People don't have medications. And so for me, I feel every child, every person has the right to that medication. It doesn't matter where you come from. And this is why I'm doing this. And unfortunately, I will not stop, because if people don't get it from me. I feel every person has the right to treatment. A
And
sickle
Agnes,
cell patient.
I hope to be of some level of encouragement to you, because we do need you. The world needs you. The As One Foundation needs you. All of our sickle cell and sickle cell trait warriors needs your voice. You personify what we mean when we say build community, what we mean when we say give voice to both the sickle cell and the sickle cell trait warrior. So many parents have said to me, I have met parents who did not know. They did not know that they were trait carriers and were, surprised when they birth a child with sickle cell. And some say they wouldn't change things. Others say they would absolutely have made a different decision. And what I hear from both sides is they all of them should have been able to make an informed decision,
Yeah,
to know what
exactly.
sickle cell is,
Mm.
know what sickle cell trait is, to know that the probability of two, as you and your husband, two sickle cell trait parents, that is a 25% chance of a sickle cell birth. But if
In
one,
every pregnancy. So
every,
that's what people get wrong as well. They'll be like, oh, I've had a sickle cell child before, so that's fine. I can go and have more. And then they end up at the second child and the third child and the fourth child. It's in every pregnancy. And we've made it for us, we made it very clear on our website. I think CDC, I've been communicating with CDC for so many times on sickle cell disease. They should change their brochures and say it's in every pregnancy. Let them not feel like it's people will take it like everybody knows. Yeah. It's in every pregnancy, and that's what we are doing as well. I've had so many good stories where people have made that right decision. They've tested, they've known that they've got the trait, and they did other options. I've got here in Australia, we have this somebody who's SS, has got sickle cell disease, but he made sure that, you know, he said, for me, it was finding that person. My number one I was looking for in a wife was to find the person who's AA. Yeah. Because I would not want to wish to bring a child in this earth to go through what I'm going through right now. So yeah, that's
an informed decision. Yeah, you know, at least they're going through with the information, with good information, and understanding that every child I have will have AS. But then there's education for those AS children. Each pregnancy, you roll those dice. You know, it is not every fourth child, or each pregnancy, you roll those dice with two AA parents, and each pregnancy with one SS parent will have an AS child. Each pregnancy. You know, those two things, I think, really complete what we call here in the U.S. the family planning education. And how is the newborn screening? It is now mandated here in the U.S. Is it mandated there?
It's not. As we're speaking right now, today is the 11th. On the 16th, I'm getting the form back from our scientific hematologists on the board, the scientific advisors. We, as an organization, we are putting in an application with another bigger organization, because we're a very small group, but we work with different bigger organizations. So we are putting in an application. It's not mandatory. It's not mandatory if anything, sickle cell disease is not even there at all. They won't even, the kids will only present to hospital when they've got a crisis. And a few mothers, depending on which hospital, which state you are, if they pick up that you have a sickle cell trait at pregnancy, some hospitals will go, I know one of my friends, they went as far as testing the husband, then they, you know, they're told after 6 months, you know, they came back, the child had sickle cell disease. So it's every state, every hospital. If they know every gynecologist, or if they feel that they should test that mother, then they follow up the child. But otherwise, newborn screening is not there. This is when we are trying as an organization to put in an application. And it's a long process.
Yes.
So all we can do is for us to encourage those people, at least for now, if you know your sickle cell status and at pregnancy, emphasize that they do the test, because they don't pick it. Even how many months ago, somebody just called me, oh, our child, 10 months old, they've got sickle cell disease because they didn't pick up at pregnancy. Yeah. So the child presented to ED. And most of the cases, the children just present to ED. And we also have a lot of international students who come in already as people living with sickle cell disease. But people born here, no. They'll be like my daughter presenting to ED. Yeah. Most of them, a few only are picked up after the mothers are tested at pregnancy.
You are a small organization, but you are absolutely mighty in reach. And we applaud you. I'm so excited to be linked to you. I'm in the US, you're in Melbourne, Australia, but I have been with you on platforms that brought together India and Ghana and
yeah. So what started off for us with the pandemic, we said, so what do we do? Do we to put our tools down? We said, you know what, we'll go back to our basics. Our basics has always been Facebook at the time, which actually we would have known to do like live streams at the time. but we started using Facebook way before. That's the way, and that's why our followers, and we decided to do this to include everyone else apart from Australia, because our followers come from all different parts of the world. We have almost 7,000 followers on Facebook. So I started off as a one thing, just doing like what everybody else is doing, came on Facebook. We said, oh, you know what, let's open these doors to, I had this idea, then I spoke to one of the advocates, and then I said, this is what I feel like. I want to invite, at the time, I just wanted to invite organizations to come on and, talk about sickle cell disease. A few. And before we know it, those few brought in other people and other people. What started off from about 6 people turned out to be about 40. Now we are almost 43 people. And then we have countries, I think now about 23 countries.
Yes.
So we opened our platform with expecting nothing in return, but just to talk, and people talk such that I think one day I'll just say, let's talk for 24 hours, because people want to talk and talk and talk. And this is what I've realized. I've just realized, not that I know that, there's so much that people are going through in the sickle cell disease world, but I didn't get it like to this extent where there's so many issues to know that sickle cell disease has been around for over 100 years. The issues that especially people from Africa, because we opened this platform to everyone, but most of the people on our group are from the African region. And we decided to just say, you know what, come, let's talk. We are one family tackling one enemy, which is sickle cell disease. But the issues that our African brothers and sisters are facing, they're far much more than what you and I are going through. And people talk, people are frustrated, you feel sorry for the messages that I get. And for me, my number is out there. So I get messages all the time, photos on Instagram, on WhatsApp, of what kids are going through. It's really heartbreaking, Tonya. It's so heartbreaking that unfortunately people don't know where to run to. People don't, and you can't help everyone. You just can't help everyone. And the only thing that I feel I can do for me is open the platform and say, talk, or you can. And if you want to record that footage and take it wherever you want, go ahead and record and just express your anger, express your anxiety, and express the things that you feel needs to be done. And that's what we are doing, because people have got nowhere to run to. They've got no one to represent them, to say these are the issues. And so we just have to work together. And so we came up together, and now there's talk of what can we do about this, and we'll see what happens afterwards.
So what week are you into with the series?
So next Saturday, it's week 9.
Wow.
And so week 9 for the English session. So we did, maybe for those people that haven't seen, let me just talk about the Amplify series. So we started with the talk, we said, let's give it a name. So we said, okay, let's call it Amplify Sickle Cell series. It was going to be 10 parts, I tell you, 10 parts.
Yes.
We had topics that people wanted to discuss. We came up with discussions in the WhatsApp group. We came up with about 26 topics, but it was too much. I'm like, guys, I've got a family with 4 humans and a husband. I can't do 26 topics. So we streamed down to 10 topics at the time. And that week when we finished, we had more people come in, I think about 4 or 5 more people. And we said we can't manage to have a panelist of a panel of over 8 or so people. So let's stream it down. So we said, okay, let's include two series. So that's why we're calling it. Initially it was 10 parts, so now it's 10 plus 2, so 12. 10 plus 2 series. And we were going to do it. We did it for 4 weeks, from 29th, I think, to end of September for 4 weeks. And then we do fortnightly. We're going to have a break in Christmas, New Year. Then the last session is on the 9th of January. And then we also said, okay, let's also have the French sessions, because we have French speaking people. So we are doing 3 French sessions, and they've done the first 2. The third French session is going to be on the 28th. So next week, again, we are back with pain management. And we have Dr. Alexandra Glaris, one of the good doctors there in America, is coming to present on pain management. And then we have the French session on the 28th, the following week. So we are still on. This is just our 9th, finishing off on the 9th of January. And what happens after that, it's up to the group. We've also opened because WhatsApp is very difficult for people to catch up with messages. You always have to update. Yes. So now we've opened a closed group on Facebook. And if anyone wants to join us, we have the Amplify Sickle Cell Voices Network. It's a closed group. You can always join us and just talk about sickle cell and see how we can enforce change as individuals.
And we'll be sure to put that in the comments once this broadcast is closed. Every place that we can reach you, your website, to register for the Amplify series, the As One Foundation, we participated in the one obviously about sickle cell trait. Yes. And we'll be facilitating again, I believe the first one in January will be, I forget what that topic is, but
yeah, I have to go back to the topics.
But the whole point is, again, our topic today is building community, and community way beyond the borders of our states, bringing people together. And who knows what will come of it, but I am encouraged when I think about the fact that, the American Cancer Society, the American Heart Association, a lot of these larger groups, hugely massive groups, international groups, they all had an humble beginning. They all started in someone's kitchen, in someone's garage, in someone's head. And that is where
exactly
that's where we are with sickle cell. So we will continue to have these conversations. We will continue to do this networking. Be encouraged. I mean, I appreciate your skill set and the fact that you continue to choose sickle cell. Devard is living without his identical twin brother. He is, grieves him regularly. And as of earlier actually the same day that the world lost Kobe Bryant, we also lost our matriarch, Miss Wendy, their mother, who is also a trait warrior. And we come upon the holidays and things will be different, when you lose a parent in that way. But just spoke with him today, and we are still determined to bring awareness to what is important and what could have been in place to save Devon's life and others that have passed.
And others,
and others. I mean, there's cancer that's associated with sickle cell trait. There is certainly the kidney issues, and hydration we promote as highly important. And these are just small things that people need to be told, and unfortunately are not necessarily being told by their providers. So often sickle cell warriors and sickle cell trait warriors have to become their own advocate. But to have an individual like you who is medically trained and can bring that wealth of knowledge to your advocacy just extends sickle cells further. So on behalf of myself, on behalf of the As One Foundation, we say thank you, Agnes Nsofwa. Did I say that correctly?
Yes, you did. So the N is silent. The N is silent. Yes. Thank you so much. But that's right, Tomia. And in terms of the sickle cell trait, there's not much education at all. Much education. So we do worry about the sickle cell patients, and most countries, yes, we do have at least a sickle cell disease organization, but our focus is always on people living with sickle cell disease. And there's so many complications, as you've pointed out, and people won't even know that it was because of sickle cell disease. So we do need to have that sickle cell trait education. It's also important. Yeah. And also if we and the first point is for you to know that you do have, you are a carrier, and then now that
you're tested,
yes, you're tested, then you make sure that, I'm also looking after myself. Because I told you last time when you came on our platform before, I was like, I'm always dizzy. That's something like I can't be in the shower for so long in the morning. I am always dizzy. If in the winter my skin hurts, I have to have 2 or so layers of jumpers, a gown, socks, and when I asked you said that could be the reason why, that I'm always dizzy, and maybe I should get tested, maybe I'm anemic, I don't know.
Mhm.
But yeah, always dizzy, and my skin hurts during the winter. So I'm, as a sickle cell trait person, so there should be also education, and
Yes.
yeah, people should know that it's also important. And also for sports people, as you said, I've told my daughter, who's one of our kids, is AS as well, and she's very sporty, that you know what, you should read this and make sure that you are hydrating.
Yes.
Just like your sister was before, well, she did the transplant, it's important that you also take care of yourself. So
Yeah. And
mm,
the trade warriors, there's over 300 million worldwide. We want them to know that they are not alone. We want them to understand that some things that they may be feeling, it could be related to their trait and is not to be ignored. And often you do have the comparisons within the household with a sickle cell sibling versus a sickle cell trait sibling, and the attention, who to pay attention to. And education cures all of that. Education,
it
understanding,
does.
it does cure all that. I mean, I've talked with a 48-year-old woman who was finally diagnosed, and her mother apologized to her because she had called her a hypochondriac all of her life, because she would complain about pain in the same place on her body, and turns out it was related to her trait, and she wasn't
Mm,
crazy and she wasn't making it up. I mean, it may be minor in the grand scheme of things in comparison to disease, but it's still, possible that there's, avian there or something like that that has gone unchecked or what have you. So
exactly,
across
exactly.
the board, this is why we advocate. This is, building the community and building advocacy, and engaging the non-affected that can fund, because a lot of this advocacy is from the goodness of our own hearts. And
Tell
we
me about it. Tell me about it. I think it's just the passion, and to say
yes,
like I'm putting in sometimes 16 hours, and I'm always called up on the on the WhatsApp group, because sometimes you wake up in the middle of the night. Oh, I've remembered this. I've remembered this. Let me post
yes,
this. So
yes, yes.
we do that at the goodness of our heart. And for me, like Amplify series is just one thing. My
Yeah,
main job is Australian sickle cell advocacy. So we are, as I've told you, that sickle cell disease in Australia is still considered a rare disease. So we are doing so much to ensure that people that live with sickle cell disease, unfortunately, also we have people that we can't reach just because of for lack of a better word. When I was just speaking to the doctor last week, we have a lot of refugees that come in, and that's another challenge that we are sort of trying to find out how we can work with the refugee centers to ensure that those people that come in also realize that there's an organization like this that supports people, look out for services for people living with sickle cell disease. There's so many things also in terms of the Department of Health that is missing for people with this condition. Just last week or last month, for the first time ever on the western part of Australia, um, a person, one of the people living with sickle cell disease, did a red cell exchange treatment for the first time in Australia on the western part of, and it took us years for us as organization to ensure that, we had to find out why can this happen, reaching out from different doctors, different departments, until finally, well, initially it was because they had no one trained to do that treatment. The machines were initially they said there was no machines, and then there was machines, and then we found out that another person living with hemochromatosis was doing that treatment. I was like, it's the same treatment, Took 2 years, but finally, for the first time on the western part of Australia, one patient at least has started doing the treatment, and we are hoping that more will come on, and that's why we're advertising a lot to ensure that that's done. So for us as an organization is to ensure that those simple things in life, like in Australia, in America, that may feel it's easy and straightforward, are also happening in Australia. We
yeah,
only have hydroxyurea as a drug at the moment. There's no other option. If for whatever reasons hydroxyurea stops working for you, like that's what happened for my daughter, your next option is for you to go and do transfusions or red cell exchange for certain parts of the country, like here. But then you might feel that, all these other drugs that are coming up that, one day hopefully they'll come, but it takes years. It takes years. Like Endari, that's been around for almost 3 years now. And they haven't even started the application process to bring it in Australia.
Wow.
So that's our number one focus, is for the patient and caregivers and other stakeholders, to ensure that our organization is also bringing all the latest treatment options for the patients in Australia, and just raising that awareness for other people to know. Because even now in the hospitals, you at least feel, out of the 24-hour shift, you have at least one nurse ask you, so what is sickle cell disease? So you're trying to educate not just the
Yes.
public, but also the clinicians. So as an organization, what we did to do our part, we designed a course that we've put on our website to give it to the doctors and nurses. Look,
Wonderful.
we are tired of always, especially for the adults who are in pain, and then you have to start explaining what it is. At least for a caregiver, you're going to advocate for your child, but for adults, so what we've done, we've just said, all the hematologists in the country, here's the course. It takes you 45 minutes to 1 hour. Do it, and at least you have that idea of what sickle cell disease is. And we had a very, very good feedback. We launched the course on the 19th of June. On the 19th of June itself, we were giving away 10 courses. By the following day, the courses were gone because they were free.
Wow.
And that after that, at the time, we didn't have the course on our website. We got people emailing us, I want to have access, I want to have access. But at the time, we didn't have the resources to put in our website. It was being hosted by another organization we partnered with. But now we've managed, and I've just said, finally, here we are. At least we are doing our part, firstly, to raise awareness, which in turn will benefit the patients and the families going through these challenges in Australia. So for me, that's my focus, like Australian sickle cell advocacy work and everything else that we are doing. But then there's this other part where we've opened, our platform to the world to come and just raise our voices. So.
And that's and I will continue. I hear that you will continue. And before we close, as we are, oh man, we are 12 minutes over our time. But that's what happens. This is important. Remind everyone of your website and your social media handles. We will put it in the comments before we go.
My God, I'm sure Joanna will be laughing like, how many social media platforms do I have? I'll tell you the main organization. So we are Australian Sickle Cell Advocacy in Australia, the only sickle cell organization looking out for people living with sickle cell disease. If you've got a family or friends experiencing sickle cell disease, please let them get in touch with me, our organization. Our website is AUS for Australia, sicklecelladvocacy.org, sicklecelladvocacy.org, and our Facebook is also Australian Sickle Cell Advocacy. Our Twitter handle is AUSickle, Australian Sickle Cell Advocacy for Instagram, and Australian Sickle Cell Advocacy for LinkedIn. And you can also find our talks, the Amplified Sickle Cell Talks, on Sickle Cell Talks with Agnes, where I've also opened up the platform to have one-on-one talks like you, Tomia. You came on and we had one-on-one talks where I learned so much about the sickle cell trade, because what you've talked about is just a little bit, but you gave a full presentation. So Sickle Cell Talks with Agnes, I just talk to people who are experiencing sickle cell, again, just amplifying. I now go into detail to get people's stories, like how they went through with sickle cell disease and where they are, treatments and other things that whoever wants to share. So come and join us. The Amplify series, Amplify Sickle Cell series is on, and the closed group is Amplify Sickle Cell Disease Voices Networks. It's a closed group, and I'll give you the details. And come on board. You can join our WhatsApp group. You can also join our group. So
and so when we finish, you will go with me and put all of that into the comments on the
I will put all this in the comments. Let's come and just talk about sickle cell, and where do you want to be? Who do we want to hear our cries, our voices, everything that we are doing, because there's so much things that needs to be done. Just quickly, like what we are discussing in the group the other day, like in terms of the African brothers and sisters, we were just going through something that we found that for years, I think 10 years ago, through the World Health Organization, the African countries had signed sort of a strategy to ensure that sickle cell disease, they had strategies to ensure that they have all things towards raising awareness and giving priority interventions for sickle cell disease. That was 10 years ago. This is 2020, and we're still looking through the document that was signed by all member states, and not so many things have been made. So we have gone back to the group with other African organizations to ensure that, you know, let's take people to task. Let's people take organizations or actually governments in Africa who signed up to this treaty to find out what have you done about this strategy that you signed 10 years ago. So those are some of the things that people in the group are just having ideas like how we can amplify change, because talk is talk. We've been talking for nine weeks now, or 9 series now, because it's fortnightly. And what do we want out of this? And for us is to make sure that those policymakers understand that, you know, you've got a duty of care to your citizens, to your patients. Talk about other conditions, for example, like hemophilia, how organized and how much change they are doing for people who are living with this condition. How come it has failed for sickle cell patients? I don't understand. Like, we need to find out why that has failed, why in this sickle cell community, we are still living like this condition was found last year or so. But other conditions affecting different people, unfortunately, the advocacy work and just the research and other things going through is so much more than what's happening in sickle cell disease. And change starts with one person. It starts with now. And, you know, come and join the Amplify series. Let's see how much change we can enforce to increase the voices of sickle cell patients.
Let's see how much change we can enforce. We are with you together as one. Our mission is to empower families globally, delivering life-saving sickle cell education. You can reach us. Our website is asonefoundation.org, and all of our platforms. Facebook is the As One Foundation, but Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, all of those are at asonefoundation.org. Please join us for this month. We are here every Tuesday for Warrior Talk Tuesday. We're talking about how we execute our mission for the month of November. We have a number of things that we're involved in. Up next, we are participating in the Sickle Cell Convention, which is an international effort where we are uniting people from all around the world. But this is a convention that is put on by sickle cell and sickle cell trait warriors for sickle cell and sickle cell trait warriors. The registration is only $15 thanks to generous sponsorship. And if that $15 is still a bit of a stretch, our organization has scholarships available. Just private message me and you can attend. We are a little bit outside of the window to have the registration materials mailed to you, but by all means register and we can try to get, there's a children's track, a sickle cell trait track, a young adult track, a men's track. It's all things sickle cell, but this is not just any old Zoom meeting. It is a very informative and interactive, and the As One Foundation is hosting the trait track again this year. And shortly as we continue through the month of November, we are ramping up our Giving Tuesday efforts here in the US. We have the Black Friday, which is the day after Thanksgiving, where everyone scurries and shops. But Black Friday specials are going on. And then we have Small Business Saturday. I'm not sure what Sunday is, but then Cyber Monday, people are buying electronics. And then we have Giving Tuesday, and that is the day that is reserved to donate to charities such as the As One Foundation, such as the Australian Sickle Cell Advocacy. But you don't have to wait until Giving Tuesday. You know, please go to our websites and you can donate now. And we are working on a match. Our goal is $5,300, and that 53 is in memory of Devon Darling. That was his football number. So if we can get that $5,300 match, we will bring in $10,000, $10,600 for our Giving Tuesday efforts. And as we do our end of the year fundraising, anything and everything helps because this is definitely a work of labor and of love. And we need the resources in order to continue to develop the digital content, because all of us have had to pivot. We are executing virtually only, and we're trying to do what we have been doing in person in an online space. And it is an assumption that that is less expensive, and that is an incorrect assumption. We still have
Yeah, yeah,
hours to invest. We have to pay. We are business. We are not for profit business, but we are business nonetheless. So please look for us on our social media platforms, on our websites. Donate, dig deep, be generous. We need you. We need you for sickle cell. So with that, I'll thank you for joining us this week. We'll see you next week as we expand again our conversation about the ally, the sickle cell ally, with our special guest and As One Foundation board member, Jamie Kigandu. We will see you next week. Thank you, Agnes, so much. We'll see you out there in the World Wide Web on the Amplified Sickle Cell Series 10+2. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a good day.
thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me, and we'll see you. Thank you.
Have a good one. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.